Welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast, the show that we shift your self-belief in, because self-belief shifting shifts everything. If you're unhappy with parts of your life and you know something needs to change, but whatever you try, you just keep ending up back in the same thoughts, reactions or choices, my free continued writing session is perfect for you. It's a live event and I'd love you to be there with me. Continued writing helps you find out the automatic patterns that are happening subconsciously, because until you're aware of them, you just can't change them. Once you can see what's happening, you can begin to understand why it's there and what can change. If you don't know what continued writing is, it's where I give you an unfinished sentence and you write it down, and then your subconscious continues to write the rest. Not the answer that you think you should give, not the acceptable one, but the one that comes out when you give yourself some space to write without overthinking it, because that's where your answers are. You don't need to have done continued writing before. I'll ask the questions and you write down whatever comes into your head, even if it doesn't make any sense, because you're not trying to get the answer right. You're letting your subconscious give you the answer that you need to hear right now. So the link to join is down in the show notes. If you can't make it live, you can still use my continued writing in your own time, because I have continued writing prompts available on my website, www.jennyfield.co.uk. You know that feeling when something happens and before you've even had time to think about it properly, your brain has started to look at what you did wrong. Someone says something, a message comes in, a comment's made, a decision taken, and somehow you feel like the blame has been placed at your door. Suddenly, you're not just dealing with the actual experience, you're dealing with everything your brain has attached to it. Welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast. I'm Jenny Field, founder of Just Being Me, and this episode is called What Have I Done Wrong? It's the first episode in a series about blame, because blame can do something really interesting to your brain. Even when it isn't clear, even when the blame might not actually be yours, even when you don't know yet what's true, your brain can still go straight to, I've done something wrong, it's my fault. And once that starts, you're no longer looking at the situation in front of you, you're looking for your mistake. This is exactly what I noticed really recently. I believe that someone had apportioned blame to me, and within seconds I had a really strong reaction. I noticed that I didn't want to engage on that platform where it happened. I noticed I worried about another encounter, but I felt distressed. I felt blamed, I felt judged, and I started to look for what I'd done wrong, because that's what my brain heard. I've done something wrong, it's my fault. And as someone who doesn't work with blame or judgment, that felt really hard to feel. What I noticed afterwards was how quickly my brain moved from the thing that had happened to the meaning I'd given it. It wasn't just about that one situation, it had connected to an old negative pattern. And for me, this is where the internal safety came in. And by internal safety, I mean the feeling of being safe enough inside of yourself to pause, think, and actually ask what's true before your brain takes you straight into blame. It's not just whether you're physically safe at that moment, it's whether your brain feels safe enough to stay present, to think clearly, and to respond from what's true now. When you don't feel safe inside yourself, your brain starts scanning for danger everywhere. Your brain doesn't only react to obvious danger, it can also react to things that feel like blame, judgment, rejection, or conflict, because it sees that as danger too. If you're late diagnosed or late identifying as ADHD, this can feel even more confusing, because you may have spent years being told you were too much, too sensitive, not listening, not trying hard enough, or even getting things wrong when you didn't understand why things felt so hard. After a while, your brain can start expecting blame before anyone else has fully explained what's going on. And if you've experienced trauma, especially around blame, criticism, or being made responsible for other people's reactions, your brain may not treat blame as one small moment. It's going to treat it as something it has to protect you from quickly. It can be someone sounding disappointed to you, someone misunderstanding you, being blamed for something you didn't mean to do, a message that feels really kind of sharp, or a change in how someone speaks to you, or even silence. And if you've spent a lot of your life trying to keep things calm, not trying to get things wrong, or even just not trying to upset anybody, your brain may not take the time to pause and ask, is this actually my fault? It's likely to go straight to, what have I done? And that's not because you're weak, you're pathetic, or you're overreacting. It's because somewhere along the line, your brain learnt that getting it wrong could cost you something. Your peace, your connection, your approval, your safety, or even the place that you belong to. When blame appears, even if it's a small one or unclear in your brain, it will treat it as something serious. It starts searching for evidence. It looks through your words, your actions, your memory, and the part where you caused it, missed it, or should have stopped it. And God, that's exhausting. Because you're not just living the moment you're in, you're also living every old pattern your brain is connected to at that moment. And it's especially important when you're neurodiverse, or when you've lived in survival mode for a long time, because your brain may already be doing a lot behind the scenes. It's reading tone, it's reading faces, messages, trying to work out what people really mean, trying to avoid getting it wrong, and trying to stay one step ahead of the rejection, the judgment, or the conflict, just to get through any one given day. And if you're ADHD, that might also come with years of being misunderstood before they had words for what was happening. They might have been called careless when they were overwhelmed, rude when you've missed a call or a social cue, lazy when they were frozen, or difficult when they were trying to explain. So when blame shows up now, it can bring all of that with it. That's why you might suddenly feel like you don't want to go back into the space where it happened. That's what happened for me, and I avoided opening any more messages. The anxiety about seeing the person again. I wanted to just explain myself, to defend myself, or just disappear completely. And that's my brain trying to protect me. But protection is not always the same as truth. And that was the bit that I needed to notice. I had to be aware of what happened, what my brain heard, and what I started to believe about myself. Because there's a difference between something happened and I am to blame. Can you hear that? There's a difference between someone has placed responsibility on me, and this means I've done something wrong. There's a difference between this feels unsafe and I am unsafe. That moment matters because it shows you what your brain has decided before you even had a chance to question it. And that's the moment where you can pause and ask yourself, what's actually true right now? Did I actually do something wrong? Is this mine to be responsible for? Is this blame fair? Is it actually blame? Is this judgment true? What facts do I have? And what facts am I missing? Because those questions matter when your brain is used to looking for what you did wrong. It can miss everything else. It can miss the fact that the other person had made an assumption. It can miss the fact that someone else has not communicated clearly. It can miss the fact that there is more than one side to a situation. The fact that responsibility is not the same as blame, and that you're allowed to pause before you take it all on as your responsibility. You don't have to make yourself wrong just because someone else has made you feel something like it's your fault. And I'm going to say that because it matters. You don't have to make yourself wrong just because someone or something else has made it feel like it's your fault. And that includes your own brain. Now, this isn't about refusing responsibility, because responsibility matters. Being able to look honestly at what you said, what you did, and what was actually yours to take responsibility for, that matters. And being willing to learn from that also matters. But when you take responsibility without looking at the truth, it becomes self-attack. And if your first response is always to search for what you did wrong, you may end up taking on blame and responsibility that just isn't yours to take on. That's where so much of our energy goes. Not into solving the situation or understanding what actually happened, but in the internal search for your mistake. The replaying, the explaining, the panic, the need to be seen as good, the need to prove you didn't mean any harm, and the need to stop someone thinking badly of you. I can still feel the old exhaustion of trying to work out what I'd done wrong when actually it was nothing to do with me. In my younger years, I had a lot of people around me who couldn't take responsibility for their own fears, so they blamed me. It never made sense to me. I couldn't work it out. And I was absolutely exhausted by trying to change who I was to make things better, by trying to work out what I'd actually done when really there was nothing to work out because it was nothing to do with me. That's why blame can feel so strong. It's not always about the thing that has just happened. Sometimes it's your brain remembering all of the times you were made to feel responsible for things that weren't actually yours to deal with. And underneath all of that, there's often one simple thought that's going on. I don't feel safe. Oh boy, and that was the bit that I needed to understand. Because once I understood that, I could stop telling myself I was being silly and start looking at what actually happened. I could say, this has made me feel unsafe. I could say, my brain has gone straight to blame. I could say, I'm looking for what I did wrong before I've checked what's true. And it didn't make the feeling disappear. It didn't mean that I suddenly know what to do. It just means that you've noticed the pattern instead of being stuck inside of it. You may feel upset still. You may still need some time. You may still not want to go back into that space straight away. And the recent thing that happened to me, that was very much the case. But actually, once you recognize that, you're not just inside the reaction, you're noticing the pattern. And once you notice the pattern, you have a better chance of choosing what happens next. You can choose to pause before you reply. You can write down what actually happened. You can separate the fact from the feeling. You can ask yourself whether the blame is fair. You can decide whether or not a conversation is needed, or you can decide whether a distance is needed. You can work out whether this is a person, place, or platform that feels healthy for you. And you can do that without making yourself the problem first. Because internal safety isn't about, I'm never going to be upset. It's about not making yourself the problem before you've looked at what actually happened. It's about not losing yourself the second someone else feels unhappy with you. It's about not turning every uncomfortable moment into proof that you are wrong. And it's always about being able to say, this feels big, but I need to look at what is actually true. And that's one of the ways that self-belief starts to rebuild. Not by pretending that nothing affects you, not by forcing yourself to be confident, but by noticing the moment your brain starts searching for your fault and asking whether there's real evidence for it. Because sometimes there's something to learn. Sometimes the blame was never yours to take responsibility for. Both of those matter. The difference is one helps you learn and the other keeps you blaming yourself. So if something has happened recently and your brain has gone straight to, what have I done wrong? Take a breath and pause for a moment. Write down what happened. Write down what your brain heard. Write down what you know to be true. And then ask yourself, is this mine to carry, or has my brain just gone back into an old way of keeping me safe? That question might not solve everything straight away, but it gives you a moment where you no longer automatically blame yourself. That's the first sign that something is changing. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Self-Belief Podcast. I'm Jenny Field, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.